Michael Bay is the king of the American blockbuster. He knows how to make a movie for a lot of money and earn much more. An army of fans rewards Bay with love, and critics never tire of nominating him for a Golden Raspberry Anti Award. Fans are waiting for more blasts from indigenous cars and fantastic heroes, and the professionals are dying of boredom. And there is no end in sight for this battle. The author of Pearl Harbor, The Rock, Bad Boys, has a vividly recognizable style that is sometimes called bayhem. The filmmaker's last name here goes with the word mayhem. However, the visual structure of the films is not mayhem at all. On the contrary, each movie is a mathematically precise structure. Let us try to highlight the central techniques of Michael Bay and maybe the secret of a successful action film. The viewer usually doesn't notice how often the film contains montage splices. The rhythm grabs the attention and leads the plot, ideally not allowing it to distract from the screen even for a moment. Researchers have calculated the average frame length. So the length of Sergio Leone's frame is 7 seconds, Federico Fellini's 8.8 seconds, and Ingmar Bergman's 16.7 seconds. And Alfred Hitchcock's Rope is shot as a long shot. At 80 minutes long, the film consists of only 10 frames, each lasting from 6 to 10 minutes. Even the docking of the shots is done as discreetly as possible. But time makes its adjustments, and these days, try to make movies as dynamic as possible. Michael Bay has an average frame length of just 2 or 3 seconds. It's not just a dynamic montage. It's a montage at the limit of the modern viewer's concentration. As a result, each event is simplified into dozens and hundreds of small frames. And the multi-hour film is more like an extended trailer for the human eye as a fundamental information bomb. And to avoid missing anything important, it seems better not to blink at all. This is perhaps the simplest cinematic technique to emphasize a subject. Bay uses it many times in each film, solving all kinds of problems with the help of proximity. For example, it is the director's favorite way of showing where the events in the film take place. In other cases, the camera becomes subjective and directs the action from someone else's point of view, dog in Armageddon, or like the bomb that falls on Pearl Harbor. They also use the classic camera sweep, which introduces the viewer to the characters, foreshadows important events, and serves as a way to attract attention. The slow motion is more of a romantic and relaxed scene, but the fast-paced one throws the viewer into the thick of the action. At the same time, Bay prefers to move the whole camera to the subject, which creates the effect of smoothness and naturalness even at enormous speeds. Teal and Orange. A favorite palette not only of Michael Bay but also of many Hollywood directors. The secret lies in its fantastic versatility. Human skin is the most frequently occupied subject of almost all color films in the orange spectrum. In Michael Bay's case, other popular blockbuster components are added: fire, sparks, and shots. Teal is considered the most contrasting orange on the color palette. It helps to highlight all of the above colors better than any other by detaching the object from the background. Critics of this palette in one voice say about its monotony and primitiveness. But how to do without it if the frame's duration is only 2 or 3 seconds? The viewer doesn't have time to get into the nuances. The eye should read the object instantly and not get bored. We must not forget another feature. Michael Bay is a real fan of sunrise and sunset times. He tries to shoot in those hours when the sun has not yet risen, or has not had time to set from these frames. Bay likes to start his films with flocks of helicopters against the warm orange sky. He sought inspiration from Francis Ford Coppola in his legendary film, Apocalypse Now. The technique of shooting movies or television while the camera is moving is when the angle between the lens's optical axis and the object's plane remains unchanged during the shooting. Remember the iconic scene from Oldboy, when the camera is moving and the angle between the lens and the object remains unchanged. The camera glides along it without turning from a straight line. Let's say Michael Bay loves this technique but often turns to it in those shots where almost nothing happens. The characters are in meetings, they say something, and they are waiting for something. Therefore the traveling creates the effect of imaginary action here. The action should not stop for a second. Pauses in the rhythm are unacceptable, and traveling perfectly solves this problem, creating dynamics where there is none. Thanks to in-frame editing, this technique plays perfectly with the space around the subject. Making a full or partial turn around the camera axis can emphasize the strength or vulnerability of the hero, his power over an opponent, or confusion before the threat. It is no coincidence that in scenes of battle and brutal combat, where the top and bottom lose all stability, Michael Bay so often adopts dynamic panning. The camera no longer moves in strict geometric trajectories, and the movement of objects in the frame begins to dizzy. As a result, the scene has a grand scale, which makes a blockbuster. This widespread technique can be very easily explained by how the cameraman has obscured the horizon, as in the case of dynamic panning. The Dutch angle is responsible for the disorientation of the hero in space. He expresses anxiety and loss of control, and the greater the deviation from the plane, the stronger these feelings become. So far, Michael Bay hasn't done without the Dutch angle in any film, but the director uses it metered. Time dilation. Another obligatory element in the world of the director. From film to film, this technique is used in pretty similar situations. The tension reaches its climax. Passion is so over the top that time in the frame begins to slow down. This technique conveys how the characters perceive time. For them, time goes by very quickly. The characters are not complicated but overcomplicated. The accomplished trick becomes something incredible. This technique is viral in American cinema, starting with Rocky Balboa and The Matrix, where Neo dodges the bullet. Besides, slow motion is always beautiful. Mise-en-scene. A prime example of a mise-en-scene is an episode of Citizen Kane by Orson Welles, in which a boy serenely throws snowballs while his parents talk about his future. As early as the 40s, the film industry was well aware of the importance of the background and its meaningful formative role. Not surprisingly, Michael Bay follows it very closely too. The frame should fill completely and not contain voids, and as the camera moves, all elements should be in compositional interaction. This way, space is given its dynamics, and significant elements interact with small parts without any montage. All of Michael Bay's visual techniques are deeply rooted in cinema history. All of them are well known to directors and serve one purpose in developing the dynamics of the film. But what are these tricks worth without personality, talent, and the ability to apply them to anything from a militaristic drama to an action movie, to work in Hollywood and make mainstream movies with recognizable handwriting? A privilege not many people have.